Setting up your meeting. Okay, good. All right. Hi, everyone. This is Elevate Your Life with Dr. T, and I'm Dr. T, and joining me today is Coach Denise Hania, who is one of our emotional sensitivity coaches. And we are coming at you with one of our important conversations about really moving through these challenging times right now in a higher emotional capacity, especially at a time when we are experiencing global reactivity. And as I've been sharing with you all recently, in our company where we're all emotionally trained and we have lots of emotional strength and we have a really high emotional capacity, we're always having these internal conversations about what it feels like to really be able to live in a non-reactive way and to really be able to move through life with connected intentionality that isn't getting disrupted all the time with everything that's going on externally. And so we receive lots of questions and comments from people who are struggling with everything from stress and anxiety and trauma and depression, and they're self-medicating and they've got issues with addiction. And, you know, ultimately, when you're emotionally reacting, there's all kinds of problems that develop. People can develop financial issues, and there's so many things, relationship issues. And right now, with this shift in the world due to this virus, we've never before in human history have humans needed to figure out so many things at one time in order to be intentional, decisive, creative, and to move themselves forward in a productive way that takes care of themselves and their families. And again, instead of taking everything and just being like, oh, this is just one big mess of chaos, having the ability to be emotionally empowered and use all of your emotional intelligence and all of your general intelligence to be able to just move into the future in a successful way, right? This is the most important thing that people are needing right now. So we were having all of these internal conversations in our company and feeling like, well, what was it like before? What would, if this crisis had happened before, what would that feel like? And we were talking to our coaches and our clients, and everybody was talking about like how they would not want to be living a life in such a reactive state without having their emotional training that they had through our emotional training programs. And so we've just been bringing these conversations to you and having them online in order to support you all and to help you stop reacting and help you harness your emotions and elevate your life and create the one that you want to. So Coach Denise is with me today. And Denise, let's just kick this off by having you share with people, how have you been navigating through what's going on and all of the changes that have been occurring in your life? And yeah, so talk to us about what you've been doing.
Hi, Dr. T. So what I've been doing is, since this started, I have been laid off work. I can't go to work. And instead of being reactive and fearful, I decided to start looking for things that are working for me, things that I've done so far that have worked for me, like save money. I've saved money over the last few months, just in case something, would happen. And I feel like I'm ready for whatever that is coming to me. I keep looking for things that are possible versus what's wrong.
Oh, awesome. I know there was this day that we were chatting, like, I think it's maybe now been a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about how things would have been different for you if you did not have the emotional training that you have.
Mhm.
And so how do you think things would have been different if you had not been had not been somebody that has gone through our emotional training programs, and now of course is helping other people do the same? But how do you think it would be different?
I probably would have I probably would have been freaking out about not working and thought that everything was happening to me. And I would have been I would have been fearful.
And how about things that would have been happening like in your relationship or with your daughter and things like that? What do you think would have been different?
So before going on your program, um, if something wasn't going right, I was very reactive. I would, if something went wrong, I would just go along with what was happening versus stopping myself in the middle of it and deciding differently. So I've been able to train my brain to stop doing what I'm doing and stop being reactive and decide to go in the direction that I want to go.
Love it. Love it. And what have you noticed have been the benefits for you? What do you think has improved since you've shifted from being a highly sensitive, highly reactive person? And I know it's something that for all of us, we're always continuing to improve. But what do you think has shifted for you? What are the things that you notice?
Hmm. What has shifted for me
Like
is,
thinking of like your daughter and how and what you're seeing in her.
oh, when she started homeschooling, the first day was very difficult. We're trying to get used to the hours and how to figure it all out. And the first day I was sitting there with her from about 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. And I was thinking, gosh, am I gonna have to do this for for weeks to come? And I decided that I was gonna step back and allow her to um, do it on her own, so it gives her a sense of responsibility and a sense of accomplishment. And it's really been working, and I've been able to give myself the time to work on myself, on my business, and what I've really give myself some me time and allow her to do what she needs to do. And she's 8, so I'm really proud of her, and I'm really proud of myself for stepping back and u- utilizing the tools that I have with
Got it.
my
So you think
family.
before you would have had a lot of different emotional reactions to this, and you were able to see this is what the situation called for, and this is it allowed you to have the sense of what would be best in the scenario rather than going through a litany of reactivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is Juliana, what if I don't know if she says anything directly about it, but if she were giving you a report card of what's improving, what would she say?
Hmm. Good question. That's a good question. I would say that she would say that I'm much more calm and yeah,
That's a big one.
that's a good question.
It's a
I'd have
big
to
one.
ask her, but
A big one.
yeah, much more calm and playful.
Got it. Got it. So Denise, in all of the coronavirus response, all the reactivity, all the things that everybody is aware of that have been going on, all of this new awareness everyone has, and we know that certain people are, they're being impacted very, very directly, not only with the virus, we know they're being impacted in their work and their careers. And what do you notice are the things that you feel people are the most concerned about?
I've been noticing that people are looking at things that are happening to them, things that are going wrong, looking at the stock market, watching the news every day, and constantly filling their minds with negativity.
Mhm.
Um, and that brings the question to me that people may be asking, like, what can I do right now?
Yeah.
Um, for me, I would say what you can do right now is start looking for things that are working. Start looking for things and fact checking and checking in with yourself and making sure that whatever story that you're telling yourself in your mind is the story that is actually happening and
Nice.
not something that you're afraid of that might happen in the future. Because this happened, it doesn't mean that something else is
Yeah.
going to happen. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And you just really have to look at it that way and stay intentional and have a plan, have a goal, and keep going towards that. Even when there's a bump in the road, just keep going.
I love it, Denise. This fact checking piece, right? This is a big part of our curriculum here, in a way that we all live our lives, because just for everybody to understand the way that reactivity works, when something occurs, some sort of stimulus or awareness, and then there's reactivity about it, reactivity gets momentum, right? This is how physics works. The same is true for intentionality. When you have an intention, it starts to bring about another one, and you start feeling inspired by that, and it goes intention, intention, intention. But when there's a reaction, then the reactivity starts to go the same thing. It starts to get momentum. It's like, well, this occurred. And even if you might have not even checked your facts yet of what it is and your interpretation, but whatever that interpretation is, the more reactive it is, the more potential that the reactivity just keeps continuing, right? And before you know it, something's happened and now it's getting blown up, getting more exaggerated. You start to go, oh my gosh, this is the now this and now this is going to happen, and now it's snowballing, and now you're in the future and you're climbing up, what are they, you're climbing up Mount Everest now. And when you got to Mount Everest, now when I get to Mount Everest, Mount Everest is going to be an illusion, and now I'm going to have another mountain to climb. And this is how reactivity goes. And this is also what brings about a level of exaggeration that people are doing, or what in the field of psychology we call it confabulation,
Yeah.
which is telling yourself a bunch of stuff without even realizing it and believing it's true. So nice job, Denise, in bringing this point to everybody, and that fact checking is essential about what is going on. And it's not required then to take everything that's going on and then completely blow it up into some future thing that has to happen, right?
Yeah.
These two things, there can be actually something happening that does not require you to then put it all into the future as if it will be happening into the future. It's a really, really powerful statement that you made, Denise. You have more commentary on that?
Yeah, because when you do start fearing, you don't make the right decisions. You start making fear-based decisions, and those are usually not great decisions.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
No, exactly. What's happening when you're making fear-based decisions, you don't even have all your cognitive capacity, because the way we're designed is that there's a moment of reactivity. It starts to shut down. So it starts to shut you down. Everything changes. So reactivity that begets more reactivity starts to change what's going on. As we know, as I think maybe all of you that are tuning in by now know, that in our human design, if there is actual imminent primal danger going on,
yeah,
then we don't have to sit there and think through, like, okay, there's a man with an axe behind me and now I should probably run, but let me tie my shoes. Like, that's not how we're wired. We are wired to that when there is actual imminent immediate danger, that we do not have to think through that we just do stuff. We have an involuntary response for our own life, to keep extending itself. And so the same goes whether that reactivity is about, somebody didn't call you back or something, and now you have reactivity about that that keeps going and going and going. And that just keeps shutting down all of your faculties. And then from there, you're really not making decisions that are thoroughly connected and intentional and using all of your emotional capacity available.
And 9 times out of 10, whatever you're afraid of, and if you get angry or depressed or have anxiety about it, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not even going to happen.
No, there's no basis in that. So
Yeah.
thinking about, so this is exactly, so everybody knows, this is exactly the kind of conversations we have in our company all the time. Right. So thinking about that, the way that the human mind works, everyone, is that it's always on. Right. And so when you're sleeping, it's doing a bunch of stuff to restore itself and integrate information and integrate your experience and put it into reference points in memory. So it's always on, even when you are resting and a process is happening. The mind is always going. So it'll go in reactive directions and it'll just it'll just have the momentum for that. But it'll also beautifully go in an intentional direction and gain momentum for that. This is how physics works. And what they say is an object in motion stays in motion, right? And really the rest of the sentences until it's like acted upon by another force, which beautifully can be your intentions. And the great news is that your intentions get to carry on and continue on until they're acted on upon by another force, which is typically somebody's reactions, right? Or interacting with another person or information or stimulus. So we want to be really clear about whether we're in a reaction or an intention, because to your point, Denise, 9 times out of 10, if you're just having a reaction, if there's no basis in reality that that will happen in the future, that you're the thing you're worried about. But the way that it has more potential to happen is if you just keep reacting and staying in a process that is ultimately going to create those outcomes that you're so worried about happening.
Exactly.
Right? It's a very, very interesting one, because imagine that you could just have experiences and you're like, that's what's occurring. You're just aware of it without having all this reactivity around it. Now, that's very different than, so and so didn't return my phone call. But now what happens for people is they have a reaction. All of a sudden, they're like, they don't love me. They don't care about me. They're never going to be there for me. Before you know it, when I die, some people say, when I die, I doubt they'll even care about it. People take it all the way out into the future. And this is not necessary. We don't need to have every single thing that's happening automatically like be taken out into the future, which just creates more anxiety and more reactivity, and it ends up creating outcomes that you didn't intend. And this is why everybody's then going like, how did I get here? How did my life get here? And the answer is reactivity and intentionality. Right? The parts that you meant to happen through intentionality. The parts that you didn't mean to happen through reactivity. So Denise, so fact checking. So what else do you see is really important for people to check their facts and tell themselves the truth? Share with me more about how you see this.
How you talk to yourself. And, Dr. T, from you, I learned that you can only build from what's already working and not from something that isn't working. So, and I think of this with your self-talk. If you say, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, you can't build on top of that. So you have to replace that. You have to dismantle it and replace it with something else. And so that takes intentionality too, and just being present with your thoughts and checking in on yourself, and doing this on like your husband said, he does the cumulative effect every morning when he wakes up, and he stretches his body, he works out, he thinks of, even if it's a little bit, at least he's doing it every day, because the
Yeah.
cumulative effect is much stronger when it's
It's
accumulated.
momentum. Yeah,
And
it's
same
momentum.
same with your mind, same with your mindset. You just have to um, train your mind to check in with yourself and keep building on what's working for you.
Denise, this is so important for everybody. I love it. See, this is what it's like for somebody to have gone through our program and then be coaching others. And Denise is a Jedi emotional trainer here. And this is a really, really important thing, everyone. So thinking about, again, the telling ourselves the truth. And there's a lot I know out in the environment. Years and years ago, Byron Katie was talking about what stories you tell yourself. And so a lot of people understand that they're telling themselves stories. But there's even there's a deeper concept here, which is really important. And again, it's a very practical one, because it's not just if I tell myself a trauma story or not. It's actually about the fact that if we don't focus on what is, and we have a paradigm, an emotional paradigm that is about what isn't, and we don't even realize that, then our entire lens all the time, I'm looking out into my beautiful office. I could have a lens that sees what's missing, that I think should be here. I want a better couch or whatever. I have a beautiful couch, by the way, but I could have everything constantly be about how something should be so much better. It's like, not this, it's not that. Well, I do have a lens about things being better, but the difference is it could be constantly like, this isn't this and this isn't that, and they're not doing. That's an entire way of being. And the opposite of that is being in the reality of what is, which is much more relevant, everyone, to say, oh, this is what is working. This is what I have. This is how well I'm doing something. Otherwise, as Denise knows, we're either thinking like we're here and we got to go all the way over here, rather than like we're here and we're going here. Right. And that's really, we're building from what we have and moving forward that way. So I definitely want to have Denise, and I'll invite all of you to be connecting all the time to what is working, what you do have, what is of service to you, what you are basically improving upon. And that's an entirely different mindset that will give you a lot more energy and motivation. And Denise, to share with us the difference for you if you think about one versus the other. If you're just thinking these other thoughts versus what you're building on, how does that feel for you?
Um, can you ask
Yeah.
that in a different?
So think of the difference that we always talk about, that if you're in the sort of in the what's not, in the what we would call the negative view, right, where
Mhm.
something isn't or it's not occurring, what it feels like for you to be doing that when you used to do that, versus, or when that maybe you slip into that occasionally, like
Mhm.
some of us humans can.
Mhm.
um and the difference between the quality of building on what is and being what is essentially the positive assertive form of experience, right? So what do those two things feel like for you?
I get to my outcome much quicker when
Ah.
I because when I stop myself from reacting, I get to my outcome much quicker. If I do start reacting and I start to go into the story, then it just it's pointless, and it doesn't get me to where I want to go. So, for example, the other day I spilled color all over the kitchen floor where Diane eats it. And I panicked at first. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna stain!" And my husband ran over. And he's like, "It's gonna stain!" And I stopped everyone right as we were panicking, and I was like, "We can get this out. and it's okay. It's already happened. You know, if it does stain the floor, we'll think about it then, but
We can
we
get
we
this
just need
out.
to stay calm, and it's okay. It's just color, and it is what it is. If it colored it, it colored it. We'll figure it out as it comes.
Oh,
So
I
it's
love this.
nice to do that in front of my daughter and show her not to go into panic mode immediately. So I really like that all of us are starting to use it this way.
Oh, this is a great example
Yeah.
because what we're talking about, everyone, is our reactivity is in everything, right? And we have conditioned lots and lots of, unfortunately, we're conditioned for tons of involuntary reactivity, right? And it's involuntary because it became conditioned throughout the generations in our family and all the people that we're all interacting with in society, right? Like when X happens, then this is the involuntary response. It's conditioned. And this is because, just so everybody knows, human beings are built for automation. Again, so we don't have to think through every single thing that we're doing, right? An example is we don't need to think through when we're thirsty. I don't need to constantly think through, I am thirsty. Now I need to go get a bottle of water and I am going to open the cap and then I'm going to drink that water. More so, the moment I'm thirsty, I start to get up out of my chair and already head into the kitchen, and I'm not sitting there needing to think through every piece of the directions. So humans are built for this level of automation. And the same goes on whether that reaction is something that produces a negative outcome. The human system is just built for things to be as conditioned and involuntary as possible. That makes life more easy and efficient. So all of these involuntary responses, like spilled something, then we go through the litany of, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever, da 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 da, I'm never going to get it out. And all of those things that happen that, by the way, just keep building that response in the future for us. When, as Denise, what you're saying is we're ultimately going to clean the spill up either way,
Yeah.
right? And we're going to walk through the process. And so to start to have a new involuntary response, Denise, that you've trained yourself in through our emotional training programs, this is how it goes, that says, oh, we can get this out. And you start immediately focusing on, we can get this out. We're going to get this stain out. It said, first of all, you're not traumatizing yourself, right? So this is good. You're not traumatizing your children. So they'll be doing that, when they're 80 years old, they'll be freaking out. That they thank you for that. And the reality is, whether you're doing it for a spill, right, that happened, or whether you're doing it for something else, the way you react to everything is a way of being. So the same reaction you have about this, Denise, right, is now the same way you react to something that's even more important. And what we're doing here is building the quality of response that is super intentional, connected, and productive for people through our emotional training programs. Thoughts about that?
Yeah, I agree. And the more that you do it, the more automated it becomes.
Love it. This is that cumulative effect,
Yeah.
right? Because again, in physics, the more of something that happens, the more of it that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to decide what that is, right? Here at Dr. Tracy Inc., we all know and subscribe to that we are all powerful creators, right? And the reality is we get to create every single outcome that happens. And even though we're co-creating that with each other, think about this, most of our entire life, well, all of our entire life is spent with our own selves and our own reactions that we're experiencing. And so much of that, of course, is spent with each other. But even when we're with each other, is our own emotional reactions that are dictating how we experience things. So this is why we can be in some awesome situation, but then still be in some reactive experience that doesn't make it, that isn't really aligned with what this good thing is. And all of that is because we get to decide where we want to put our focus. And as people go through our emotional training programs and they learn how to harness all of their reactions into their intentions, ultimately, this is a training of everybody's emotional system in order to make these new automated responses so that when something happens, whether it's a spill or whatever it is. Somebody missed their airplane because people are going to fly again, so this will be good. Somebody missed their airplane, that the auto response isn't 17 versions of I screwed up, I should have left earlier, that we just go right to solving the problem. Like, where's the next plane? Okay, I get to have a cocktail in the bar. That worked out really well. Whatever it is, we're the ones creating these outcomes. And the moment we just get focused on what it is that we want to make happen next, or what we want to continue on, then, as to Denise, to your point, you're saving a lot of time and a lot of struggle, and then you get to decide what to do with all that time that you have in excess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love doing this, especially now while my daughter is young, so that she can automate that for herself.
And Denise, so yeah, think about this. So what is it that you're wanting for Juliana? We've talked about this, but it's really powerful. What is it that you're wanting for your daughter?
I want her to be able to handle life in a way that works for her. I want her to carry on her purpose. I don't want her to take in everyone else's, you should do this, you should do that, and just really follow her own intuition. And I want to be the person that hands all this knowledge to her and just allows her to live her purpose.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Denise, thinking about, we're going to wrap up here in a moment. So thinking about all of the different people who struggle with emotional sensitivity, and really at this time, I feel like the trauma that people are going through is almost making everybody more emotionally sensitive. But people that struggle with emotional sensitivity and overreactivity to things, and are really, struggling with that experience, and want to change it, but have the challenge with emotional sensitivity is that the emotional sensitivity is the very thing that gets in the way of people fixing the emotional sensitivity. What would you say to them about stepping up and stepping forward into an emotional training process?
I would say that even if you don't believe it's for you, do it anyways. Try it. And you can't know unless you try it, and you can't say, oh, it won't work for me, it works for others, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that. You just have to do it. And this is a program that has all the tools, and Dr. T made it very affordable. You can start off doing a self-led course, and it's very easy to use. And I I wish that everybody would do it. I wish that everybody would just take the time to um, work on their personal growth and give themselves the gift of and just knowing that you're worth it, and knowing that um, all this time that you put into it will not be for nothing. It will definitely shift something in your life, even if it starts out small. It's going to accumulate
Nice.
and be great.
Denise, I just am reminded that in this conversation, I did not mention, I said that you're on our team now, but I want to go ahead and let everybody know that Denise is one of our emotional sensitivity coaches, and one of her primary roles is going to be leading our emotional sensitivity revolution the art of self-control group, and really giving a lot of leadership to our free Facebook community, and helping people move along the continuum of developing their emotional capacity, and helping people by consulting, what on whatever their questions are, and whatever might be holding them back from coming into one of our incredible programs, and what it can do for people. And so as somebody stepping into that role, you're all going to feel a lot of Denise's support and influence and impact in your life. And she's here to answer any questions that you guys have. You can contact her through asking questions in our Facebook group, and DMing her, what do they call it, private messaging. And Denise is going to really be paying attention to what everybody needs in the Art of Self-Control group, and answering questions and making it as easy as possible for people to go to their next level life by moving up in their ability to manage all of their emotional reactions into their intentions. So I'm really looking forward to that, Denise, having you
Excited.
absolutely support our incredible community, and again, really have us have people easily come into our programs and not have their emotional challenges get in the way or make them fearful of addressing something that is going to be actually the most fun thing that they've ever done.
Absolutely. I'm excited and grateful.
All right. So, Denise, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. For those of you who may not have taken our emotional sensitivity assessment yet, you can go to drtracyinc.com and take the assessment to see where your emotional capacity is and what it's doing. And from there, that'll help you. It'll give you some tools. It'll give you a report all about that. And it'll give you some directions about which one of our programs may be will be a fit for you, and how to apply and all the different steps that go along with that. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you soon.